Is Here's my YouTube comment. Show it one more time. Morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. We are going to get started in moments. Tell me your locations as you are checking in. We are good on Rumble Studio. Good morning, everybody on Rumble, YouTube, and X. I'll make sure we're good on X. That's one that I can check pretty quickly. We are active on X. Good morning, everybody over on X. We are live on Facebook. Good morning. We are live on LinkedIn. We're live over there on Instagram. Good morning. And on TikTok. Tell me your locations as you are checking in. And we're going to talk about the Texas situation that happened about 10 days ago now. I didn't get a chance to talk about it because I was on suspension. But now that we are out of jail, we're going to get into talking about this topic, which does need to be discussed because there's a lot of things thrown about in that situation that just need to be cleared up. So, Nikki, happy Tuesday. Marky Man 007. Nikki checking in Connecticut, Newburgh, New York, Sacramento is in the building. As y'all coming in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. Tell me your location and like the live. Thank you for liking the live. Those of you who are in here, we had 2,000 likes already. Let me just get my screen set here. We are good over on YouTube. So let's get into this topic. We got to talk about what happened in Texas. So for those who don't know, on over the July 4th weekend, there was a catastrophic amount of flash flooding that happened in central Texas, especially around this place called Camp Mystic in the county of Kerr County in Texas. Claimed over 100 lives just from flooding, which sounds, if you don't live in a place where flooding normally happens, that sounds like kind of crazy. How can 100 people die from flooding? You can't see the water coming. Can't you run away? Well, in this situation, no and no. Over 100 people died, including many children and counselors from a summer camp called Camp Mystic, which is a Christian summer camp. And in the aftermath of that, social media, of course, goes off on this, not because people were upset of lives being lost. And this is part of the craziness that has come from social media. Part of the craziness that has come from social media is that people take a situation, they tend to politicize it, or they want to make it about something maybe different or bigger than it actually is. So something happens, anything that happens that has to do with the government or national media or anything somehow, some way you can connect it to the government, people are going to try to blame whatever administration is in charge, or somebody has to take the blame for it. This is how politics works, everybody. For those of you who don't understand, the way that politics works is that anytime something goes wrong in a city, somebody in the city has to be blamed. Something goes wrong in the country, somebody in the country's government has to be blamed. This is the way it works. This is what politics is. Why? Because your political opponents are going to try to use whatever bad is happening against you to make you look bad so that they can then leverage that to beat you in your next election, or their team can beat your team in the next election. This is the way it works. And the fact that Donald Trump is currently the president makes this even more of a hot button thing, because a lot of people already just don't like Donald Trump as a general idea. So anything they can grab or use against him, they're going to use just because he's the one who's in charge, because they already don't like him. So anything they can use, they're going to use. So in the aftermath, social media has erupted, of course. All of the people who already didn't like Donald Trump are using this as an excuse, a pretext to go after Donald Trump. And they say that, well, Donald Trump and his administration weakened the NWS, which is the National Weather Service. So what people are trying to purport is that Donald Trump and his admin weakening the National Weather Service, allegedly, is the reason why these people in Texas suffered from these floods, which is, we're going to get into that. And that there were budget cuts, there were staff reductions, and this led to forecasting failures. And that's the reason why the outcome was the outcome. Yet at the same time, multiple oversight bodies, meteorologists, and the National Weather Service itself confirmed that they did send out early warnings, as they usually do. It's not they didn't do less of it because of whatever budget cuts or staff reductions. None of that was affected by this. The local offices that are assigned to respond to things like this, all those local offices, they were sufficiently staffed for an event of this size. So again, normally staffed, as they always have been. Nothing about Trump's administration had changed that. And the delays lay in the local flooding warning infrastructure, not emergency coordination. In other words, the infrastructure that was already in place, that may have caused the delays, but that had nothing to do with Trump, had nothing to do with budget cuts or staffing cuts. that this is just infrastructure and emergency coordination, not federal inaction. And again, that's a state level thing. That is not a federal level thing. And again, most people who don't like Donald Trump don't care about that. You never, as they say, never let facts get in the way of a good story. While at the same time, I just told you again yesterday, the facts don't matter. If people don't want to consume a fact, or they don't want to believe a fact because it goes against the grain of the story that they want to believe, then they'll just ignore the facts. And this is how the world is right now, especially with somebody like Trump, who is he's a person who gets people very emotional one way or another with him in office. So while President Trump did declare a disaster, he canceled a bunch of farm debt. He announced he's going to visit. Detractors have still used that tragedy to score partisan points. Again, this is how it works. This is what happens. One of the reasons why we're talking about it. Even worse, a section of online voices have celebrated or justified the deaths of the people in Texas because they're saying, oh, well, the people who died in Texas, most of them are white, so they probably voted for Trump, so they deserved it. Or they are Christian, and because they're Christian, they probably deserved it. Or Texas is a red state, so all the people who died in Texas, well, y'all voted for Trump, so this is what you're voted for. I saw people saying this all over social media across the weekend, July 4th weekend when this happened, which is a ridiculous thing to say. But again, this is what the internet has actually created a platform for people to say ridiculous things that don't make any sense, that they would not say in their everyday lives to everyday human beings, but you can say it online and it sounds like you're making sense when it actually doesn't. So that's what we're going to discuss here today. So let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year professional athlete. I own this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we take the discipline and structure that helps performers get to the top 2% of what they do. And we created a system that turns that into performance, execution, and results for high-level professionals, salespeople, entrepreneurs, ambitious people. So if that sounds like you're that type of person, go to the link that you see in my profile or the links you see in my bio on whatever platform you're watching this on, and you can learn more about working with me. You can get access to, I think I have it pinned everywhere, my free bot called Dre GPT. So we had Chat GPT. I created Dre GPT, where it is trained on, instead of being trained on all the stuff that's on the internet with a bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about, it's trained on all the stuff that I've done, that I teach, my systems, my frameworks, my mindset, my approach. So you can talk to Dre GPT 24/7. It does not get annoyed. It is never unavailable. It doesn't go to sleep, doesn't take naps, doesn't go on vacation, and it doesn't go to the bathroom. So you can talk to Dre GPT 24/7. All you got to do is go to dreallday.com/AI. You can access it for free. So let's get into this topic here today. Is Trump to blame, again, for these Texas floods? First of all, as I already said in the introduction, federal and by the way, I'm going to take about 30 more minutes to go through this material. Then we're going to open the floor up at about 8:45 for conversation on this and discussion on this. So if you have a question or a comment or anything you want to add to the discussion, you can post it now, but I might not see it because it might get flooded out by the other comments, but I will get to it after I get through this material. And make sure you keep liking the live on TikTok. Thank you for liking those of you on TikTok. We're at 13K. Let's get up to 20K. So federal and local National Weather Service offices issued timely flood watches and life-threatening flash flood alerts well before the flood waters rose. So this whole concept that for whatever reason, Donald Trump's budget cuts and weakening of the National Weather Service, that's the reason why all of this happened, is all nonsense. And again, a lot of people don't want to allow facts to get in the way of a good story. That had nothing to do with it. So the federal offices and the local offices of the National Weather Service did exactly what they're supposed to do, that they do every single time that something like this happens. They issue a flood watch well ahead of time. They issue life-threatening alerts well ahead of time. This all happened before the flood waters rose. At the same time, you can issue all the alerts that you want. You can't control what other human beings do. You can't control how people respond to things. You can't control how seriously people take a warning or an alert that comes ahead of time. For example, I remember in 2000, it was either 17 or 18. I don't remember which year it was. There was a hurricane allegedly about to come through South Florida, and that's where I live. And there was a question of whether it was going to hit Miami directly. And everyone in Miami was thinking about it because, of course, if it was going to hit the town directly, you might think twice about whether or not you're going to stay and just bear it out, weather the storm, or if you're going to get out of there and evacuate the town. So there were a whole bunch of evacuation warnings coming out. People saying, you got to evacuate, you got to go, don't stay here, go somewhere else, go to where the storm's not going to hit as hard. And a lot of people I knew in Miami were leaving at that time, and they were going to other places. They might go to Orlando, or they might go to the state of Georgia. They go get a hotel in Carolina or something like that, just driving up the state to get out of there. And I was thinking about it. We were thinking about it up to the last minute. Are we going to leave, go? I don't know, thinking about it. But then at the last minute, like the last day that you could have evacuated, I decided, no, I'm not going to evacuate. We're not leaving. We didn't go anywhere. So we stayed during the storm. And at this time, hey, too much noise. I'm doing my live stream. You want to join? Okay, if you're going to join, you have to be quiet. You want to join?
Yeah, because there's Tyler.
Okay.
I want to go get his parents' house.
Okay. But no noise when you come in here. Okay. So at the last minute, I decided, all right, we're not going to leave. When we stayed, and at this time, we're living in this condo that probably had, how many people live in this building? Probably 800 people in the building. That week or weekend, I don't know what day of the week it was. It was probably like 10 people in the building. Everybody else left. Everybody left the building because everyone was scared that there was going to be some big storm that hit South Florida. I didn't leave, but I was properly warned. Now, let's say the building had gotten knocked down, God forbid. I couldn't blame the weather service because I decided I'm not leaving. And the other 10 people who stayed in the building, we decided we didn't leave it. Maybe it was more than 10 people. I only saw about 10 people. 10 people came out of their houses. I came out of the house during that time, and I walked down. At the time, I'm living on a 40-something floor. I walked down all the steps because the elevator stopped working. And then I had to walk all the way back up the steps when I came back in the building, and the street Brickell Avenue flooded. I remember I posted it on Instagram, and it was crazy during that time that all this happened. But I'm saying all that to say, I could not have blamed the weather service for this situation because
I got a white paper towel right now.
Yes, you do. So, okay, now I'm in the middle of the live stream, so we're not going to make too much noise while I'm talking. Okay, can you say good morning to people on TikTok?
Good morning, people on TikTok.
And good morning to Instagram.
Good morning, Instagram.
And good morning to X.
Good morning, X.
And good morning to Facebook.
Good morning, Facebook.
And good morning to LinkedIn.
Hi, LinkedIn.
And hi to YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
And hi on Rumble.
Hi, Rumble.
Okay. So now we're going to clean off these tires again that are never, these are not actually going to get clean, right?
Yes, they are.
But it's paint. So as we wipe it off, it's just going to get dirty all over again. That's the way they're designed.
It's not going to get any more designed.
Yeah, that's how it works. So continuing here. You can't control how people respond if you give a warning. You give a warning that, hey, there's going to be a flood. Hey, there's going to be a storm. Hey, there's going to be a hurricane. If somebody decides they don't want to leave, they ain't leaving. And you can't really make people leave. I don't know if there's a legal precedent for it. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But for the most part, you can't really make somebody leave if they don't want to leave. If they want to stay there in the storm, it's their house or it's their home, or they say they don't have anywhere to go, they can stay. And again, I did it. And the building didn't fall down. We did go without power for about 24 hours. And I had to walk up and down the steps to go get anything if I wanted to get out of the house. It wasn't anything open, but I decided to stay. So who are you going to blame for that? The National Weather Service did their job. Now, critics are saying that budget cuts were hindering the NWS response, which is nonsense. Again, let me say it for the third time here. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story. That did not happen. That had nothing to do with it. Coast Guard experts and union reps affirm that forecasting and alert systems worked properly. So this whole story of something that Trump did caused this is a complete inaccuracy that had nothing to do with what happened to those people. Now, FEMA, that is the Federal Emergency Organization, and first responders, they were mobilized immediately. So when they knew it was an emergency, they started doing what they were supposed to do. Trump signed a disaster declaration, and rescue teams from local, state, and federal agencies performed over 500 rescues. So, of course, we hear about the death toll and the people who didn't make it, but they did rescue about 500 people who were in dire straits, for lack of a better term, no pun intended. Now, political voices, of course, demonize this. They try to say, well, Texas is a red state. Texas, that's the same state where Kamala Harris paid for Beyonce to show up for $10 million allegedly to give a speech for 4 minutes. You remember that? That's Texas. And Kamala wasn't going to win Texas, but she had Beyonce come do a speech in Texas anyway, because she knew she wasn't going to win Texas. So Texas is a red state. Texas tends to vote Republican. They voted for Trump. And they're saying, some people said this in so many words. I saw it on X. And some were suggesting that the people who had this happen to them in Texas deserved it for some reason, simply because, please keep liking and live on TikTok, simply because they voted for Donald Trump and because of your terrible moral your failing moral compass that allows you to vote for Donald Trump, you deserve this terrible tragedy to happen to you, which it rhetorically sounds good in a vacuum, but doesn't make any sense because tragedies can happen to anybody at any time. It can happen in any state, and not everybody who passed away probably even voted for Trump. Just because the state voted red does not mean every person in the state voted red. And as we already shown, Donald Trump had nothing to do with what happened. Donald Trump does not control the weather. Donald Trump doesn't make a flood happen in your state. It's just a ridiculous argument, but so many people are throwing it about because people are so emotional around Donald Trump that we just have to address the foolish elephant in the room of people trying to make this about Donald Trump. This is disgusting moral failing and is cloaked in political ideology. And we shouldn't even have to talk about things like that these days. Now, experts point out they point out that the rain was in Texas.
For?
This is the remote control for the fan. So you see how I just turned the fan up? Can you feel it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you control the fan. I control the fan with this remote control. So experts point out that the rain in Texas when this flooding happened, for those of you to understand, put this in context, 20 inches of rain fell in 72 hours. That is a lot of rain. 20 inches in 72 hours. Can you imagine how much rain, how hard it would have to be raining?
Oh.
And basically consistently and not stopping. So down here in South Florida, we get rain a lot. This is our, I guess you can call it the rainy season.
You know what, Daddy?
What?
I can't draw stuff for you to see.
You going to draw stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, what about this truck?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll put it right here.
Okay, you have to clean off the board first before you draw anything. All right, so continuing. 20 inches in 72 hours. So down here in South Florida, this is our rainy season everywhere, not everywhere. The entire time between like May and October, you could consider it rainy season in South Florida. The good thing about our rainy season is that when it rains, it'll rain for like maybe an hour, then it stops raining. And then it's sunny outside all over again. Right now, it's sunny outside. It might rain this afternoon, but then after the rain, it'll be back hot outside and everybody will be outside as normal. We don't get rain all day. Only time we get rain all day is if a tropical storm comes through South Florida, which doesn't even happen maybe once a year for the most part. They got 20 inches of rain in 3 days. And the Guadalupe River, it rose 26 feet in 45 minutes.
Marker? What about my marker?
Okay. What color do you want?
Red.
Okay. The Guadalupe River rose 26 feet in 45 minutes. How you going to get away from that? If a river goes up 26 feet in 45 minutes, can you all understand? Do y'all understand how much that is? What? Did you clean off the board? Is the board clean?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're done with that marker, make sure you bring it over here and put the top back on so it doesn't dry out. 26 feet in 45 minutes. You might not be able to get away. Where you going to go? And what if everybody's trying to get away? And everyone's on the road and you're stuck on the highway. Here the river comes up and you're sitting there on the highway. 45 minutes. This was historic. This is a historical extreme. You can't prevent this. A president can't make this happen. A president can't stop it from happening. FEMA and the National Weather Service cannot stop this from occurring. This is a natural disaster. This is just something that happens. Unfortunate for the people it happened to, but to make this in any way, wait.
What is that?
I don't know. I can't see it, but I'm recording, so I need you to keep the noise down while I'm recording, okay? And this is historic in a historical extreme. This could not have been prevented or stopped. Yes,
So
I can. I have to finish recording. Leave it there, and I'll see it when I get done. So media and some politicians are calling for probes into National Weather Service staffing. This is all political theater. They're calling for probes into the staffing, and Senate investigations and reports show that the San Antonio office and the San Angelo office had sufficient staff to issue timely warnings. So again, for the fifth time, next time you hear somebody try to push this nonsense that Donald Trump and his budget cuts and his staff cuts and lessening federal funding for things like the Weather Service had anything to do with what happened in Texas, that is not true. Everyone has already said that had nothing to do with it, that they were properly staffed, that all the alerts went out on time. And if people end up passing away, that doesn't mean that somebody didn't do their job. It just means that certain people got caught up in whatever they got caught up in, the natural disaster. And again, as I gave you the example from here in Miami in 2017 or 18, whatever year that storm was, I didn't leave. A lot of people did leave. I didn't leave. The building was swaying back and forth. Like they said, fill the bathtub with water for, I don't know what the reason was, just in case something happens and you can't use the bathtub. So we filled the bathtub up with water, and you could see the water swaying back and forth. This is a 50-story high-rise building, modern high-rise building. So it's built to deal with storms. So it dealt with the storm, but you could feel the building moving like this the entire time. The power goes out. We didn't have power for like a day. The neighborhood next door didn't have power for like a month. But a lot of people didn't leave because we didn't want to. And had that building collapsed, I couldn't blame the city for not properly warning me or not doing their job or not having enough staff, because they told us exactly what it was. And we said, okay, and we didn't go. That's what it is. So people trying to make this out as if this is some type of political thing, nonsense. The White House press secretary, that's Mrs. Levitt, she confirmed that the National Weather Service maintained staffing. The warnings were early, consistent, and they call the alleged failures a depraved lie. Now, this is in one case. Now, we know in politics, everybody kind of throws these terms out when they're trying to make the other side look bad. In this case, she's 100% accurate. That is a lie. And the last thing, environmental and climate experts warn that further cuts could degrade further forecasting. While this incident wasn't caused by staffing issues, it underlines the danger of weakening federal weather capabilities. This is one of those, let me just say something so I can be right. This is what Trump's enemies are saying, this point right here. Let me say it again so y'all can catch it, because you're going to see a lot of people saying this if you haven't seen it already, or if you are not one of the people saying it yourself, that any further cuts to the National Weather Service or any further cuts to funding for things like this, like FEMA and everything else that is designed to help people in emergency situations, or to at least warn people about emergency situations, these could lead to it could worsen further forecasting. So in the future, when there's another storm coming, or floods are coming, or there's going to be some natural disaster, if Trump keeps weakening things, that can make forecasting worse, and a tragedy like this could happen again. So basically, they're trying to find a way to tether what happened in this situation onto some future occurrence that hasn't even happened yet. And they're trying to somehow, some way, find a way to make it seem like, oh, well, here's a criticism we could throw out about Trump anyway, because, hey, he can make it worse, and it can be a worse situation. What they're trying to do is conflate these ideas. Actually, they're trying to conflate something that actually happened with an idea, something that has not happened, as a way of, well, here's a reason why you need to be against Trump anyway. Because even though the point I tried to make, not me, but I'm saying this imaginary person, the point that they tried to make, that Trump has something to do with what just happened, is bullshit. Now that it's been debunked, well, let me just move the goalpost and find something else I can be right about so I can trash Trump anyway. Right, and this is what has happened. This is what social media and the internet hath wrought, by the way. And social media and the internet is all of us, by the way. This is what is created, is that once people decide on an idea, they don't have to agree to or accept any fact that they don't want to agree to or accept. They come up with any story that they want to come up with, and they can come up with any moved goalposts. Which one do you want? Okay, one moment. Okay, one moment. Let me get this marker for myself. Okay. What other color do you want? I'll give you blue and one more. Okay, now you use one at a time, and you have to clean off the board before you use that. Clean that off first. No. Clean the board off before you use wood. I don't want those colors mixed. You understand? Okay. Okay, continuing. So people coming up with anything that they can say just so they can be right. And I explained this to you all again. I emphasized it again yesterday. I'll emphasize it again today, and I'll probably say it again in the future. Facts don't matter. If people do not want to accept a fact, they don't have to accept it. They can come up with any story that they want to invalidate. Make sure you clean off the board before you use another color. The green is over there. Before you use another color, clean the board off. Use the eraser.
I did already.
Okay, clean it all off. There's still some red on there. Clean that red off. Son, clean off that red before you use that green. So this is where we are. And we all made it this way. The good news is, if you don't like the facts that somebody else is throwing out there and they're throwing out some things you don't agree with, you can go come up with your own facts, and you can do the same thing to them, and it becomes this back and forth game. basically a war of attrition before somebody gets tired and they don't want to go back and forth anymore. And you can go create your own facts. Use AI if you want to. It'll create a whole bunch of facts for you faster than you have time to think about, recite, or rehearse them. The opportunity moving forward, I already explained this to all of you, is for the thinking person. The person who knows how to think. They can ask the right questions and they can cut through the nonsense that other people are throwing out there, especially when you can point out people's the illogic in people's arguments, because there's a lot of illogic in a lot of people's arguments these days that if you notice it, there's a huge opportunity for you. So with all that said, let's open up the floor for discussion and see what we got here on either this topic or anything tangential to it. We have, all right, yeah, we'll just go there. Let me see what we got. And I didn't see anything on YouTube Rumble. I don't think I saw anything on Instagram. So let's see what we got over here on TikTok. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and post it. I think I might be able to start at the beginning. So if you got something, go ahead and post it. Kim DP checking in from Illinois. Good morning. Chili Willie from Boston. Marshall said, who said that Trump was to blame? Well, I answered that question. Carla, Indiana. Good morning. Jared said, do you ever let yourself criticize the Trump administration, or do you just spew Trump propaganda? So I don't know if I want to give you the straw man of the day for saying that. I might, but no, I'm not going to give you the straw man of the day. Actually, should I give him the straw man of the day? I think I might give you the straw man of the day for that comment. So you said, do you ever allow yourself to criticize the Trump administration, or do you just spew Trump propaganda? Yeah, you get the straw man of the day for saying that. So the straw man of the day, for those who don't know, is going to Jared449, is when someone takes something that I either said or they think I'm representing and they reframe it into something that I didn't say, or they pose it in the form of a question or ridicule or just a general statement, but it's a complete misrepresentation of my position. So this person said, do you ever let yourself criticize the Trump administration, or do you just spew Trump propaganda? This is said as if to say that criticizing the Trump administration is something that I'm allegedly, I guess, supposed to do, according to Jared, or I'm spewing Trump propaganda, which is something that I'm not doing. Propaganda is inaccurate information that's thrown out there as a way of defending or defending an organization, entity, or influencing an audience. This is not propaganda. What I just gave you is straight up, quote unquote, facts. I told y'all facts don't matter anymore. And y'all saw me just giving y'all the facts, and here we go with a straw man immediately. As soon as I start giving you facts, people say, oh, it's propaganda. And this is the world that we're in. This is where we're at. So, Jared, congrats on the straw man award. Cyrax says Trump is the GOAT. Okay, fair enough. That's what you believe. Traditional, thank you for telling people to like the live as they come in. Let's get up to 35,000 likes, everybody, as y'all are coming in. Let's like the live, please, on TikTok.
Sorry, I can't do this anymore.
Can't do what?
I can't do it anymore.
Julie Bianchi, good morning to you. Dakota said it happened because county officials turned down money from evil Democrats. That's not true. Why not? Why can't you draw anymore?
Because I have to go back.
Okay, clean off the board first. Can you clean off the board? Use the eraser. Dakota said it happened because county officials turned down money from evil Democrats. What happened? Are you telling me that you got 26 inches of, was it 26 inches of rain? Let me check that number again. I think it was 26 inches of rain.
What about
20 inches. Okay, you take that one. So you're saying that in Texas, they got 20 inches of rain in under 72 hours, and a river rose 26 feet in 45 minutes because of the Democrats and the Republicans? I don't think so, Dakota. You got to come with something better than that. The Democrats and Republicans can't cause the clouds to open up and rain. They can't cause flooding. They can't cause a river to rise 26 feet in 45 minutes. This has nothing to do with politics. That's the longest short of it. But again, because people have been so emotionalized and triggered into making everything about politics, people find a way to make every conversation about politics when this is just a natural disaster. That's what it is. Daniel said a large chunk of the cuts don't go into effect until the end of October anyways. Okay, well, there you go. And whatever cuts Trump did, allegedly did, and that happened in Texas have nothing to do with what happened in this situation, which is the point. Traditional said that storm took so many people. Yes, it did. Javon said, I subbed to your YouTube since I was in middle school. You're a real symbol. Well, I appreciate that, Javon. Good to see you here. Tim Ludop, thank you for sharing the live. Can we get the likes up, folks? We're at 34,000. Can we get to 35, please? I see people saying sweet. I'm like, are y'all talking to me or talking with these are comments when my son came on the live. Okay. Fair enough. Barbie said, been a while, just got back from a band. My last strike was for saying Gross. How'd you get a strike for saying that, Barbie? I don't know. I don't know how that sounds right. What else did you say? So just said, fear is a tool to safety for many people. Okay, that's actually true. Generic username said, Christie slowed FEMA down by 3 days, though. What does that mean? HealthNet Co. said, Republicans are destroying America. Yeah, we know. People have been saying that for the last 50 years. And then the people on the other side say the same thing about the Democrats. Elsa, thank you for the gift. HealthNet said, that's true. God is on the throne acting accordingly. I don't know what part you're saying is true. Generic said he is responsible for the demonization of Biden so they don't use money for flood warning system. Who is he? You talking about Donald Trump? Neither Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or any politician is responsible for a river rising 26 feet in 48 minutes and the state of Texas getting 20 inches of rain in 72 hours. Any of you trying to come up with a right to blame a politician on this, you are reflective of the misdirection that has been played on a whole lot of Americans. Floyd said, enough voted for this. What is this? Floyd Forrester, what is the this that you're referring to? This meaning the river rising 26 feet in 45 minutes? How can you vote for that? I never heard of that. If there's a way to vote, is there a way to vote that every day here in South Florida, it'll be 90 degrees and hot, warm, and sunny, hot, humid, and sunny? There's a way to vote for that. Please tell me what to vote for. What law is that I'm voting for? Next election, I'll make sure I vote for it. You can't vote for weather. What the hell are y'all talking about? Sharon says that concept for hoping the opponent running Ted Cruz would win. That concert for hoping the opponent running Ted Cruz would win. You should know that. So Sharon is saying that the Kamala Harris concert was to oppose Ted Cruz in the election. I don't think so, because that money came out of Kamala's budget. And Beyonce wasn't speaking about the Ted Cruz candidate. She was speaking about reproductive rights. When Beyonce has 3 kids, and I don't think she's aborted any of them. So the whole idea was wrong of what Kamala did. It was a bad idea, first of all. Poorly spent money, second of all. It failed, third of all. And what you're saying right here is not true, fourth. HealthNet said the next wave of retribution is on the horizon. Retribution for what? And what's the retribution going to be? And when is it coming? And who's doling it out, HealthNet? So go on the record here. You're throwing out something that's very vague. So I want you to go on the record and fill in the gaps of the thing that you just said so we can hold you accountable if you end up being right or wrong. Palmetto said, handsome young man. Yes, I think you're talking about my son, so thank you. Floyd said, deserving what they got. Who's they? And what did they get? And why do they deserve it? Go on the record, folks. Y'all speaking a little bit too vaguely for me. I like when people are more direct and clear as to what exactly you're saying. No vagueness. Barbie said, many who voted for him caught the Dems in too many lies. I understand completely. Whether they caught the Dems in lies or not is irrelevant. If somebody chooses to vote for the Republican, they can choose to vote for him. If you choose to vote for the Democrat, you choose to vote for him. This whole idea of you voted for this side politically and then something bad happened a year later, that happened because you voted for the person. No, it happened just because it fucking happened. It's not because of who you voted for. And again, a lot of people are trying to draw these parallels between the vote that you put out there and then something that has nothing to do with voting happening. This is a natural disaster. Now, if you vote for something and then let's say a new law goes into place or there's a new bills going through Congress or there's new taxes or something like that, yes, you can draw the line between the politicians, the politics, and that thing. But this is not a political thing. And I just clarified that. So, Barbie, I'm not pushing back on what you said, but this whole concept of the politicians cause something like this is nonsense. And even if somebody didn't cast a Democrat in the line, they just decide to vote Republican, they have a right to. Same way that someone who votes Democrat has a right to. They don't have to explain it or justify it by talking bad about the other side. You like what you like, and you choose what you choose. Jorby says, so him cutting federal funds didn't have anything to do with the mortality rates from the storm. Here's the straw man of the day, number 2 by Jorby. So Jorby, you must have come in the middle of this and missed the beginning because I went very much detail through all of this. So Jorby, let me fill you in on what you missed. Critics accused Trump of weakening the National Weather Service through budget cuts and staffing reductions, claiming that this led to what ended up happening, which is what you just said there. It's a straw man argument because it is false. Multiple oversight bodies, meteorologists, and the National Weather Service itself confirmed early warnings were issued, local offices were sufficiently staffed, the delays in local flood warning infrastructure and emergency coordination, those may have caused delays, not federal inaction. The only thing that Trump controls is the federal level things. He does not control anything at the local level. That's at the state level. That has nothing to do with Donald Trump. So, no, the budget cuts did not. And as Daniel said earlier, the budget cuts that Trump put in place, those budget cuts don't happen the very day that you hear about them. They happen like months later. It might even be a year later before the budget cuts even go into place. So the federal funding that you're referring to, no, it had nothing to do with the mortality rates from the storm. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the fact that you framed this as if you were making a point is why you get Straw Man of the Day award number 2. And what's interesting is the same material that I'm sharing with you all on this point, on this topic, that y'all are throwing out these straw man arguments. I got this information from the same source that y'all have access to for free, just like me. It's called the internet. If you just ask some questions and read, then you would have this information so you wouldn't be straw manning yourself and making these ridiculous comments. Ray said the same thing will happen to Florida. What same thing? What same thing is going to happen in Florida? Flash flooding? Well, we don't have rivers that go up like that in Florida, and we're already surrounded by water. And I would think the drainage system in Florida, just because we have water everywhere, is a little bit different than Texas. That's the reason why you don't often hear about floods being the thing here. What you hear about is the storms themselves. It's the water that comes from the storm, but it's often the wind damage that messes things up in South Florida. It's not usually just the water itself. Traditional said Miami is a beautiful place. Yes, it is. Courtney, good morning. Good to see you. Indy Valley Girl, good morning. Tate Max at 45 minutes at 4 a.m. Is that what time it was? In the middle of the night. Okay, so a bunch of people saying it happened in the middle of the night. Right. So I didn't even know it was the middle of the night. AOL says, speak louder for the people who still don't agree. Well, there's nothing to agree to. I'm not offering an opinion. I'm telling you what factually is true. AJ said, it's understandable that it's natural. Defunding the weather people that easily predict these things is the problem. Well, that's not what happened. Again, many of you are repeating things that you heard on social media, people saying they're not true. They emotionally sound good and they feel good, but they're not factually true. He did not defund the people that easily predict these things. And again, just because you can predict a natural disaster does not mean you can stop something from happening to people due to the natural disaster. Again, I just gave you all the example. There was a tropical storm, I believe it was hurricane, coming to South Florida in 2017. They announced it to us in Miami. They announced it in the building. Y'all should leave the building. They literally said, you should leave the building. Like 10 people stayed in the building. It's probably 800 people who live here. 10 people stayed in the building. I was going to leave. Then at the last day, I said, no, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying. And the building falls down, I'll fall down in it. And I stayed, and the power went out for a day. And it was like, what was the name of that TV show? The Walking Dead. It was like The Walking Dead for like 24 hours. Then everything went back to normal. And the building didn't fall down. Now I'm here to tell you the story. Had that building fallen down, or had I passed away in a flood, my family couldn't go sue the city for not warning properly. They did warn. I just didn't listen. And you can't tell other human beings what to do. You cannot tell a sovereign American citizen what to do if they don't want to do it. You can't make me leave. Where are you sending me? You paying for my hotel? You gonna pay for my gas to drive wherever I'm supposed to go? If you ain't paying for it, you can't make me leave. This is where I live. I pay to live here, and I'm not leaving the place that I live, and that's my choice. And if somebody in Texas made that same choice and they ended up passing away, that's a choice that they made. So saying that you defunded people that easily predict these things is a problem. That's not the problem. That's a straw man argument. So AJ Ward, you get the straw man number 3 of the day. It's also an appeal to emotion. That sounds good for people who are not informed. Jeffrey said that cell became stationary over that part of Texas. And when that happens, look out. What that cell? What do you mean that cell? What are you referring to? Amy said they didn't take Biden money to save lives. Cadell said, how about the air raid alarm? How about it? User said Biden gave $10 million in Texas to fix their infrastructure to use it for their police department. Well, it depends on how that money was earmarked and what exactly they were allowed to do or not allowed to do with it, and also what people voted for. So it depends on several factors, not as simple and cut and dry as you make it sound. Biden just wrote a check for $10 million. First of all, Joe Biden doesn't have $10 million. And that comes from Congress, not from Joe Biden. And then in the state of Texas, when they are given money as a state, the people who were elected in the state of Texas get to decide what to do with the money. Then there's certain things that have to happen with that money. Just because someone gives you money doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with it. If someone gives you money, they can dictate a little bit to you what you can and what you cannot do with that money. That's part of the strings that come with somebody handing you a check. So the story is a lot deeper than what you're posing here, even though it sounds good. AOL said, I'm in Central Texas. Okay, great. Cadell said, I don't buy that. What are you not buying? I'm not selling anything. User said, they said it was too expensive to evacuate. Who said that? Give me a quote. Who said that? Protect the Next Gen said, were the clouds seeded the night before? Are you joking? Rudy said, I'll give it San Angelo. My phone kept going off with alerts all night long. Yeah, they tell you when something's happening. Now, if you choose to respond to it or not is your choice. Barbie says, must they been caught lying? I don't know why anyone listens to the Dems anymore. Well, that's the same thing that Democrats say about Republicans, Barbie. So I get what you're saying, but there are people on the other side saying the same thing that you're saying. 2Ls said, the more he talks over the months, the more I realize he's kind of a puppet. Who are you talking about? Who's he? And if you're talking about a politician, then every person who doesn't like a politician says that about that politician. So you're really not saying anything, no matter who you're talking about. Indy says, sir, you're well educated and have common sense, which many lack. Well, thank you, Indy Valley Girl. The challenge with this term, common sense, I don't even like to use that term that often. I appreciate the compliment. I don't like using that term because people say common sense when they agree with somebody, and then when they don't agree with you, they say you don't have common sense. So is common sense really the determining factor? Not really, even though I get what you're saying. Anthony Davis says, I believe nothing that comes out of that White House. Okay, you don't have to believe it. The National Weather Service said it. What I quoted you was what the National Weather Service said. Do you believe them? Will, thank you for the follow. Rhonda said, no matter how or why it happened, it's so sad. Well, yes, that's true. But if that was the whole story, Rhonda, I wouldn't be doing this live stream. So we're talking about how and why it happened because that gives context. Can we get the likes up over on TikTok? We're at 45. Can we get the 50,000 likes, please? Irma, good morning. Cadell says, I missed this. I lost my spot. Where was I? I lost my spot. Where was it? Not there. Cadell says, common sense, man, you are talking nonsense. So somebody just said I had common sense, and another person said I'm talking nonsense. Cadell, what are you disagreeing with? Please lay out and spell out in clear English what your disagreement is. Instead of just saying that you're disagreeing, you actually didn't say that. Instead of alluding passively to the fact that you disagree, actually say what you disagree with. That's how adult conversation goes. Joel said he never says anything bad about the side he likes, which makes it hard to trust him. Are you talking about me? What side do I like? If you're talking about me, I'm assuming you're saying me when you say he. What side do I like? And then it makes it hard to trust me. Okay, well, let's address this. This is a straw man-ish comment. I won't give you a straw man award, but it's a straw man-ish comment. And what side do I like? First of all, is a question you have to clarify. What side is it that I like? Because you're assigning a feeling to me that I have not expressed. So that makes it a straw man. Secondly, and because you're assuming that I do like a side. Secondly, I made very clear several times on here, I have no political affiliation. I am not Democrat. I am not Republican. I am not MAGA. I am not anti-Trump. I'm not pro-Trump. I have no political affiliation. I really don't generally care what happens politically because as I tell every one of my audiences, you want to put yourself in a position where nothing that politicians do has that much of an effect on you other than you using it for content like I'm doing right now. So I don't care about the Democrats or Republicans. And so for you saying the side that I like is already a straw man because there is no side that I like. And say anything bad, I don't have to say anything bad. I didn't say anything bad about anybody here today. All I said was an argument was bad. I said the points are bad. I didn't say a side was bad. I said the point is bad, regardless of where the point comes from. So there's another straw man. So that's two straw men in here that you have alluded to passively. And it makes it hard to trust him. If you're referring to me, I don't need you to trust me. Who the hell are you? I don't know who you are. I don't need you to trust me. And the only reason you would need to trust me is if you were actually putting some trust in me for some reason. But listening to me on TikTok does not require you to trust me. It just requires you to listen. You can actively disagree with everything that I say. So you could do that. And it wouldn't be wrong if that's what you choose to do. So you got three strong men in one. And they're all alluded to passively here. And assuming that you're a male, the way you're talking sounds like you're a male. I don't respect passive aggression in men. So you got a lot of things to fix based on this comment. Wendy Tassel said, I think Whoopi Goldberg and Rosie O'Donnell are poison. Well, didn't Rosie O'Donnell leave the country? And Rosie O'Donnell ain't been active in a while. The only reason she gets brought up is because Donald Trump made that joke about her a long time ago, and then she just pops up every now and then. Whoopi Goldberg's still on TV. I think Whoopi Goldberg's positions are, a lot of her positions I think are crazy, but she serves a purpose because there's a whole audience of people who want to hear what she has to say, and they like it. So, hey, if they like it, they like it. And there's a lot of things I see in media that I think are ridiculous, but that doesn't mean that there is not an audience for those things. And you can't hate the player, you got to hate the game. And I don't hate anybody. So, Jennifer, good morning. Misha's mom says, what about cloud seeding? What about it? Why are people mentioning cloud seeding? Do y'all think somebody seeded the clouds to make it flood in Texas? Why they pick Texas? And why do people keep bringing that up? Terika Marin said, did you see the video the owner of Rainmaker put out yesterday regarding the cloud seeding and was not a factor in Texas flooding? I did not see the video. So somebody tell me what this video is. Y'all keep talking about this cloud seeding. And do they have proof that they did it or they didn't do it? What about it? Bex, good morning. Good to see you. Tierra said local government. Yes. Renata said, can you give me actual steps to get rich under Trump's reign? I know to buy Dege before 720. What's Dege? What's DEGE? What is that you're referring to? And actual steps to get rich under Trump's reign. Well, Renata, the steps would be the same as under Biden's reign and Obama's and Trump's first one and George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. So first, let me ask you, Renata, give me a definition of rich, because this term gets thrown around a lot. So I want to make sure if and when I answer your question, I know what you mean when you say rich. And once you give me that context, then I can answer your question. I can more accurately answer your question. Sandra said, agree. Thank you, Sandra. Jeffrey said, that's what the liberals do is spew hate. Well, see, the liberals say the same thing about the conservatives. Lisa said, I read the $10 million was given by Biden in 2021 wasn't used for the right things. Well, who'd you read that from? Probably people who don't like the people in Texas. So Biden is a Democrat and Texas is a red state. So you probably read from someone who is aligned with the political left that the $10 million that Biden gave them was supposed to solve all their problems, but they didn't use it the right way. So now they still have problems. So that means that the red people are bad and the blue people are smart. And I mean, it sounds good, but it's all political theater. Beck said, well, Trump is our president. Well, everybody should love whoever the president is because they're still the president, whether you like him or not. SRQB said, you sound like you're fine acting helpless and we can never do better or prepare better. You sound like you're fine acting helpless and we can never do better or prepare better. So this is a straw man argument. I sound like I'm fine. I'm reading this like for the third time, just trying to understand what exactly you're saying. Because grammatically, this is not very well written. You're fine acting helpless. Well, first of all, I'm not acting. And helpless, what do you mean by helpless? I didn't say anything about helplessness. I said people can be warned of a natural disaster that is impending and they can choose that they're not going to take the actions that are suggested to them. And you have a right to do that. If someone's at their home, they have a right to not leave if they don't want to. Now, they can be warned all day, and if they end up not leaving and something happens to them, then their family can't come and be mad at the state because we just told you to leave and you didn't leave. I gave you the example of my own personal example of why I didn't leave when there was a hurricane coming to Miami. And the hurricane did come. Luckily, I survived. From my calculated judgment that I would survive the storm. I survived the storm. You said we can never do better or prepare better. That's a straw man. That we can never do better or prepare better. You could use that phrasing around pretty much anything that ever happens in life that doesn't go right. Oh, well, we could do better. Oh, well, we could prepare better. Yes, that always sounds good until real life meets the lab test. Lisa Hill said the money was supposed to be used partially for some better communication, but it was used for other. Okay, fine. At the same time, Lisa, what the state officials have said is that the infrastructure was one thing that could have been better. They didn't say anything about communication or preparation or prediction. None of those things were abnormal or below standard. The only thing they said, the only thing the state said was that the infrastructure, the delays lay local flood warning infrastructure, that's the way things are built and organized, and emergency coordination, not federal inaction. So that's things that happen in the state of Texas, and it depends on what happened with that money. Just because Biden gave $10 million to the state of Texas does not mean they were supposed to use the money for one thing and they could have used it for another. If they were supposed to use it for one thing and they didn't have another choice, that's what they would have did. They didn't do that. Therefore, they had a choice of what to do with the money. And that all sounds good to start blaming them. I told y'all this at the beginning. Politics demand that somebody be blamed for everything. Anytime something goes wrong, people got to come up with some reason or some way to blame somebody. And y'all see it in the comments. Now a bunch of people are throwing out there, Biden gave money to Texas several years ago. They didn't use it for this. And now that we have a tragedy 4 years later, now we're going to blame people who didn't do a certain thing. What if we never had the tragedy? Would y'all be bringing this up? No, you wouldn't be bringing it up. It's only when something happens that all of a sudden people want to go rush and point a finger at something or somebody. This is one of the penalties of being in leadership, is that as soon as something goes wrong, somebody's trying to find a way to blame you for everything. The reality is, this is one of the reasons why I'm not a politician. The reality is sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes bad shit just occurs. That's life. That's the way it works. But in politics, no one wants to hear that. In politics, someone has to blame somebody. So anytime something goes wrong, somebody's going to get a blame for it simply because this is how politics work. Politicians do it, and then they teach it to their constituents, and then everyday people do it. And a bunch of you are doing it right here in these comments. AOL said, as a Texan, thank you for speaking the truth about the flood. You're welcome. I mean, I'm just reciting what actually happened. So you're welcome. Babe Girl, thank you for the follow. Inez Banks, thank you for the follow. Anthony said, who am I going to believe, the Trump administration or my lying eyes? It's not the Trump administration, Anthony Davis. What I'm giving you is stuff that came straight out news reports. That's not the Trump administration. Most of the mainstream media it tends to lean politically to the left. So what you can believe, Anthony, is your ability to read, which I'm assuming you can do because you're writing comments. So why don't you go on the internet and read for yourself? And if I got something wrong, tell me what it was. Sandra said, also happened in 1987. They have had a while to fix this. Well, Sandra, is it the exact same situation with the exact same circumstances as 30 years ago, 40 years ago? I don't think so. Vivian said, as much as I like and respect your videos, I like really seeing what an amazing dad you are. Well, thank you, Vivian. Queen Coco said, yeah, they are dangerous to America. Who's they? Who are you talking about? Mike Mint said, people commenting on the site, thank God you're smart. Well, this is the internet. What do you expect, Mike? Vivian said, I love your non-biased videos, but seeing your son brings light to the seriousness of these topics. Thank you. Queen said, well, they have taken away the funds to help end the weather stations. No, they haven't taken away the funds. They haven't. There was nothing short. There were no shortages when it came to the way this situation was dealt with. Sometimes things just happen, folks. There are no perfect scenarios. There are only trade-offs. One of the trade-offs of being in certain places, that there are certain natural disasters that could happen. The sea level of a river rose by 26 feet in 45 minutes. You tell me how much money is going to solve that problem. There's no amount of money you can use. $10 million cannot stop the water from rising 26 feet in 45 fucking minutes. What are y'all talking about? They got 20 inches of rain in 3 days. You know how much rain that is? If it rains all day here in Miami, we might get 2 inches of rain all day. If it rains all day, you might get 2 inches. They got 20 inches in 3 days. That's 7 inches a day. Pause. And that's how much rain they got. Right? How much money do you need to solve that problem? And again, even if you go and tell people, you go knock on everybody's door, hey, it's going to rain 20 inches in the next 3 days. You might want to do something. I ain't going nowhere. This is my house. I ain't going nowhere. If it rains, it rains. I ain't scared of rain. Oh, the river might flood. Okay. Thank you. See you later. Get the hell away from my house. All right. And I'm staying in my house. And if I don't want to leave, I ain't leaving. You can't make me leave if I don't want to. Trump gets blamed for natural disasters. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said this at the beginning. In politics, people find a way to blame whoever they don't like whenever something goes wrong. This is the penalty of being in leadership. So any of you who's ever been in a leadership position, I don't know, that based on these comments, a bunch of you have never been leaders at anything. If you're getting to a leadership position, as soon as something goes wrong, people are going to find a way to blame you simply because you're in a leadership position. Even if they have to make it up and they got to come up with a bunch of convoluted ways to blame you, they'll blame you. The higher your leadership position, the more things you get blamed for, even if you had nothing to do with it. Donald Trump had nothing to do with the way the state of Texas decides to set up their infrastructure for flooding and these type of natural disasters. He has no control over it. He has no say. He can't make them do anything. Even if he gives them money, they still get to choose what to do with the money. He has no control over any of this. But somehow, some way, people find a way to pin this on Donald Trump. Why? Because he has the highest position with the most leadership in the entire country. That's the reason why he gets the blame. And if any of you ever get into a leadership position in anything that goes wrong in that space, the people in there are going to find a way to be mad at you because of it, even if you didn't even do anything. Bruce said, I don't remember the flood being on the ballot. Yes, good point, because it wasn't. Jonathan said they turned down money that had warned them of the storm. That's not true. False. How can money warn you of a storm? Jonathan, how much money do I need to give you? How much money can I give you right now that you would know when a storm is going to come? And by the way, they knew the storm was going to come. That's called the weather. They do have weather in Texas. They got news people in Texas that say it's going to rain. There may be floods. The river may rise. They were all warned. Everybody was warned, and not everybody took heed to the precautions that were given to them. How many of you have ever, it depends on where you live. You live in South Florida. Every time there's a storm that might come through here, we get all kinds of warnings. You might not want to leave your house. You might want to move your car inside. You might want to take all your furniture that you have on the balconies and bring it in the house so it doesn't get blown away by the strong winds. We get all kinds of warnings for this shit all the time, every year. And most of the time, most people ignore all of it. We ignore it because we don't care. And we don't think it's going to be as bad as they make it seem. Usually they make it seem like they give you worst case scenario what you should do. You should evacuate the town because the storm may hit us directly. And everybody heard it. And a bunch of people left. And then a bunch of people said, fuck it, I ain't going nowhere. Like me, I ain't going nowhere. And had something tragic happened, they could have said, hey, he didn't want to leave. We told him. So no, there's no amount of money that can change that. People are people. So a bunch of you are repeating some nonsense that y'all heard on social media that is not true. Please get second and third opinions before you decide to adopt a belief. Barbie said, that was just my last strike. I get violations for videos and comments. That was just my last strike. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What exactly were you saying? I need the context of what you were saying that got you that strike. Just the word itself didn't get you that strike, Barbie. You're telling me half the story. Queen Coco said, we have weather alert every time we have weather system before it happens. Yes, everywhere has a weather alert. Everywhere has a weather alert that tells you something might happen. Yesterday in South Florida, I was getting a message on my phone talking about possible flash flooding. Was there any flash flooding? No. And every 100 times they say it might be flash flooding, 98 out of 100, there's no flash flood. So eventually I'm like, all right, flash flood, okay. And then I just keep living my life. And then one day there's a serious flood and maybe some tragedy occurs and I can't say that they didn't warn me. They warned me. So what you going to do? If you're one of the authorities, what are you going to do? Lisa Hill said, I'm a Republican. I think people saying the communication during the crisis should have been better. There was communication. They did communicate. Did y'all not hear what I just said? What I've been talking about for the last hour? They communicated. People were just slow to respond or they didn't respond. That's it. Rahek said TDS is real. It's very real. Jeffrey said Kamala lied straight about being black when she's of Indian descent from Jamaica. Well, it depends. You should go listen to what Candace Owens had to say about Kamala's background. She did a deep dive on it over like 10 episodes. Toby said, I think they're referring to cloud seeding. Yeah, what about it? I'm still asking, what exactly are you talking about? Queen Co said, it's on the government because we have a weather alert on NZ to give us it. Yes, Texas had alerts. People in Texas were alerted, and people still got caught up in the disaster. So just because some people passed away during the natural disasters does not mean that the government did not do its job. Some people still passed away. This is just what happens. People pass away. Things happen in natural disasters. That's why they're called disasters. If you could prevent anything bad from happening during a disaster, they wouldn't call it a disaster. Vicky said, I live in Maryland. When are all of you going to take care of American citizens instead of illegals? Who's all of you? Who are you talking about? The Ricky Hughes says, the level of ignorance the Democrats view is unbelievable. Well, Ricky, the Democrats say the same thing about Republicans. Tom Cave said, not everything on the internet is true. That's right, including a lot of things being said in these comments right now. David said, who are you? My name is Dre. David, nice to meet you. Jennifer said, flash flooding is happening in many states right now. We're having a rainy summer in many states. Yeah, well, rain happens. I mean, did anybody not know that rain is possible? Everybody knows about rain. Dex said, what does straw man mean? Dex, straw man is a common logical fallacy when someone takes something that you have said or didn't say, and they represent your position as something easier to attack. That's why it's called a straw man. So instead of attacking an actual man, you attack the straw man. So it's kind of like making a, what was that story? the Wizard of Oz, and there was the man made out of straw, that guy, the scarecrow. That's a straw man. You make a fake version of a man, then you beat up the straw man, then say, hey, see, I proved your point wrong, but you're actually beating up not a real version of my point. You're not actually addressing my real point. You made up a different version of my point that's easier to attack. Then you attack that, and then you pose it as if you made a point when you actually did not. That's called a straw man. So an example of a straw man would be something like if I say, hey, I like eating hamburgers and steak. And you say something like, oh, well, it's obvious that you hate animals. All right, that's a straw man. I didn't say I hate animals. I said I like eating hamburgers and steak. I actually like animals. I like eating them, hamburgers and steak. You saying that it's obvious that you hate animals and you don't care about animal cruelty and you don't care about preserving the wildlife out in the world. That's a straw man argument because you're making it seem like I'm some cruel person who has something against animals just because I said I like steak and I like burgers. That's a straw man. So you're misrepresenting my position to make it easier for you to argue against, often because you strongly disagree with my position and or you have some strong emotional ties to the opposite of the opposing point of view. So somebody who's a vegan and they're an animal lover, they are really mad when they see somebody eating a steak or a hamburger, or they see somebody wearing a fur coat. So they will go and create a straw man against you so that it's easier for them to fight against you because they're already emotionally triggered by your alleged opinion. So that's what a straw man is. Tony said, good morning, love your content. And Deck, if you keep listening, I'll probably get another straw man comment here for me to respond to. Jennifer said, because the weatherman is always right. There you go. Deck, what did I just tell you? Deck, did I not predict the future? It literally took me 2 comments from the time somebody asked me what a straw man is for it to be an actual straw man. So what Jennifer presented here, I don't know if she's being sarcastic, but this is a form of a straw man because the weatherman is always right. And the straw man here, and again, Jennifer may be supporting me. She could be going against me. I don't know. But the straw man here is, I said that they have weather people in Texas that say there's going to be rain. There might be flooding. The river may rise. They tell you these things. They say this all the time. I get the notices on my phone all the time when it rains here. And the weatherman is saying that the weatherman is always right is a sarcastic point. It's sarcasm. Sarcasm often is a cloak for the straw man. People will hide their straw man argument within sarcasm because it sounds funny, because it sounds like they're ridiculing you and making fun of you. And often people will use ridicule or trying to make fun of your argument as a way of kind of provoking you to respond. And usually what people respond to is the ridicule instead of noting the underlying straw man that goes with the ridicule. The ridicule is just the clothes that the straw man is wearing. So what you got to do is strip the clothes off the straw man and point out the straw man. So when someone tries to use ridicule against me, I can point out the straw man because I'm not going to be emotionally triggered by someone allegedly trying to make fun of something that I said. Water Otter on YouTube said they've been modifying the weather since the Tartaria era. Okay, so now people are saying that they modified the weather. Okay. Fine. David said Project 2025 wanted privatized NOAA. I read my granddaughter say he fired the staff that helps with weather warning. No, he didn't. That's not true. Queen Co said no one was warned worthy. Are you ignoring that fact? Queen, that's not a fact. That is a complete falsehood. That's not even a logical fallacy. It's just completely false. Queen, you don't know what you're talking about. Speaker of Truth says handing out awards all day today. Yes, there's been a few of them. I didn't expect there to be this many today. Austin said, update on the job hunt. I have been able to connect with someone in the city. It took months to. Congrats on the job hunt. David said, you're not very informed. Okay, well, inform me. What do I not know? I lost my spot here. Bill Greenidge. Many people are waking from a deep sleep in the middle of the night to shouts to evacuate. Okay, we'll take your word for that. And we'll just put that on the record. Queen Co said, well, be thankful he offered it. Are you ignorant? All right, so Queen Co is going into appeals to ridicule, also a little bit of a straw man. And again, we need the actual facts of what was offered, when it was offered, and what were the rules for that money. Someone doesn't just give you $10 million and say, do whatever you want. And I don't need anything back. I don't need a report. I don't need answers. And I'm not going to put earmarks on this of what you can and can't do with the money. That didn't happen. So Queen Co, what you're doing here is you're kind of talking past the sale. You're talking past the sale of what actually happened, how it happened, and what the rules were for that money. I haven't accepted that yet. So what you're saying here is also incorrect, and don't get emotionally triggered in your disagreement. You disagree, but don't get into ad hominem, because you go too deep into ad hominem, I had to kick you out. So Real Big Fishing said Trump to blame for floods. Yeah, exactly. And XTR said national weather issue warning 2 days prior for that area. Everybody knew that the warning was there, but again, people tend to ignore warnings if we hear them too often. Chelsea said they were cloud seeding. That's been proven, and the cloud seeding CEO spoke about it. Okay, fine. And at the same time, they were warned. So let's say they were seeding the clouds. I saw that comment a few times. Let's say that they seeded the clouds, and everybody was warned that there might be a flood. Okay, now what? What else needs to be said on top of that? Now I just got kicked off of TikTok again. I don't even know what I said. What did I just say? I don't know what I said. So let me take a picture of this. Here we go again. Live access removed. Your access across all channels. Your access to go live across all channels, including multi-guest, will be restored on July 22nd, which is a week from today. I don't even know what I said. Did I say anything here? Anybody who's listening to this, what did I say? It just kicked me off again on TikTok. I don't even know why I got this one. The last one, when I got kicked off for saying these hoes ain't loyal, that one I can understand. This one I don't even know what I just said. But I'm going to appeal this in a second. One moment. This is crazy though. And no, not that. So those of you who hopped over from TikTok, they just kicked me off again. They didn't explain this. They said you can. Of course, I'm going to submit an appeal. I don't even know what they're talking about. What did I do? They didn't even say what I did. I'm just trying to figure out what exactly they're saying I did. So let's find out. So wait a minute, let's go back. View details. They said misinformation. They said I was spewing misinformation. I didn't give any misinformation. They said in a global community, as natural people have different opinions, but we seek to operate on a shared set of facts and reality. We do not allow inaccurate, misleading, or false content that may cause significant harm to individuals or society, regardless of intent. Significant harm includes physical, psychological, societal harm, and property damage with our community guidelines. What the hell are they talking about? This is some bullshit. So let me do this again. I don't know what they're talking about. So I submitted this appeal. This appeal should not take more than 2 minutes because whether I get rejected or accepted when I do these appeals, usually it is resolved within 2 minutes. The last time I got suspended and they said, no, you are still suspended. They told me in 2 minutes that I was still suspended. So this one shouldn't take that long because this one is some bullshit. There's no way that I should stay suspended based on, I don't even know what they're saying. So they're saying appeals reviews typically take up to 24 hours, but may take longer in some cases. There have been times where they've taken like an hour or two. They've never taken 24 hours. Usually it takes like 2 minutes. So let's see where we're at here. Let me take a picture of what I did do on this live before it was, and then they put a restriction on it. And here's the thing about TikTok, because they used to, if you were violating in some way, you would get a notice on the screen, and it would say, hey, you're saying ABC, or you said something. They don't even tell you exactly. Sometimes they'll allude to it, what you might have done wrong. And then there's a warning. So they know, let's see. They're still reviewing my appeal. You'll know that you did something wrong, that you said something wrong. Or what will happen is, actually, that's always what happens. They would give you these warnings in the middle of the live. So I remember once, months ago, this is like October, November of last year, I said something about Russia. I just said the name Russia. I said Russia like 3 times. And a warning came up on the screen almost immediately. Like, hey, you're mentioning something or in some way, something like that, that was saying, you're mentioning something or some way that was saying that I had said something wrong. So I'm like, all right, well, clearly I can't mention Russia. So I didn't mention Russia anymore, and I didn't get suspended for the mention. But they would give you a warning. Now they're not giving you warnings anymore. Now they just kick you off. So this is what is surprising to me, is that they just kick you off now for no reason. Now, again, the last time with the Diddy thing, I knew what I did. This one, I don't know what the hell happened. So those of you who are checking in over from TikTok, yes, I just got kicked off of TikTok. I don't know why. They didn't They said misinformation. I don't know what misinformation I shared here, but I just appealed it, and usually the appeals are pretty quick. The appeal process is usually pretty quick, and they tell you whether you succeeded or failed when it comes to the appeal. So I'm still waiting on an update here. Usually it takes like 2 minutes. So it's been about 2 minutes, so we're still waiting here. So let me see. I see some of you hopped in off IG. Wesley D on Instagram said, politics have nothing to do with this terrible event in Texas. Bring logic and empathy, not the political game. But the political game is part of the deal in America, so it's part of the trade-off. So what happened is I got suspended or kicked off, allegedly suspended. My suspension is being appealed right now, so we're seeing what the deal is. Ohio said, you said nothing, someone was just in their feelings. Yeah, so I'm assuming somebody may have flagged it, but again, you got to get a lot of flags to get kicked off, so I don't know what happened. Courtney said, I didn't hear anything bad. Neither did I. So that's what we're trying to figure out here. Bella 112, good morning, good to see you. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened here. And they don't tell you if somebody complained. All they just tell you is that you got kicked off. We're still waiting on a response here. So I'm planning to go live for another like 10 minutes. So we'll stay on here with Instagram and we'll see if I get a response here on TikTok. Who owns TikTok? Same company that always owned it. They didn't sell it yet. So that's why this still happens. The only reason I still have to edit myself when I'm talking on TikTok is because they haven't sold it yet. So the whole TikTok's going to be sold at some point. So again, the officially what I was told is they said misinformation. In a global community, it is natural for people to have different opinions, but we seek to operate on a shared set of facts and reality. We do not allow inaccurate, misleading, or false content that may cause significant harm to individuals or society, regardless of intent. Significant harm includes physical, psychological, or societal harm and property damage, which is that's a terrible definition of misinformation, by the way, just for the record. And secondly, there's no such thing as misinformation. It's just people not knowing what the hell they're talking about and then opinions. That's it. So this whole concept of misinformation, I'm not a fan of it in general. And what they're saying is, and even the way they define this is terrible. They say we need to operate on a shared set of facts and reality. That's bullshit. There is no shared set of facts. I don't know who at TikTok came up with this terrible wording, but this is not the way things work. There is no shared set of facts. Anybody can come up with any fact that they want at any time. We do not agree on the facts. If we agreed on the facts and a lot of the stuff that I talk about, I wouldn't need to talk about because everybody would agree on the facts. It'd be over. And they said we do not allow inaccurate, misleading, or false content that may cause significant harm. So what does significant harm mean? They say physical harm. So I'm not physically hurting anybody because I'm on a computer or on a tablet or a phone. Psychological harm. What the hell does that even mean? What is psychological harm? So if I say you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. Is that psychological harm? You can probably include that if you wanted to, depending on how you want to define it. So that's why this term that's why it's a very bad idea to call things psychological harm, because psychological harm can mean anything. If I just don't like what you said to me, I could say you caused me psychological harm. So does that make what you said misinformation because it caused me psychological harm? Or they say societal harm. What is societal harm? What does that even mean? Property damage, I know what that means. Physical harm, I know what that means. So if you punch somebody in the face, that's physical harm. If I throw a brick through your window, that's property damage. But what is psychological harm? What does that mean? What is societal harm? I need clear definitions for these terms. And because they leave them so vague, this gives them a catch-all to basically block you or shut you down for anything that you say, and they can just put it underneath this umbrella, and they don't have to answer for what exactly you did that was wrong or what exactly you said that was wrong. So we're still waiting on a review here. So TikTok is still reviewing my restrictions / suspension situation. Let me pull up TikTok on because I don't want to leave the screen. I'll pull up TikTok on my phone. And let me see if I can see how I get back to this page. Then I'll bring it back over. So live, you can go live. So right now I have a 1-week suspension according to TikTok. And they're still reviewing my situation. And this could take up to 24 hours. So it looks like this is a human review. Usually, this is the good news for all of you, is that because I'm ending this live at 9:30, whether I get a response or not. But I will be back live tomorrow. If you don't see me live on TikTok tomorrow, pending the next 9 minutes. If you don't see me live on TikTok tomorrow, I'll be live on IG and on every other platform: YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Rumble. And what was the other one? LinkedIn, Rumble, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram. I'll be live everywhere else if I'm not live on TikTok. But usually, if your problem, whatever you did wrong, your violation was a system violation, meaning TikTok's system noted that you violated, they respond to you pretty quickly and say, no, you didn't win your appeal. You're done. You're suspended for a week. But if you appeal and it takes a few minutes, and they take a few minutes, that means usually it's a human who has to review your stuff. And if it's a human reviewing it, that means you didn't violate the system. That means you violated because some idiot flagged your live, or they reported your live, some human who just didn't like what you were saying kept reporting your live, so then you get kicked off. That usually is a good sign, because if some human reported your live, then all they do is look at the part that allegedly you did something wrong, and then they say, no, he didn't do anything wrong, and they bring it back. So it's actually a good thing that this is taking a while. So it was about the weather. Yeah, it's crazy. Said people might have been upset about the straw man thing. It couldn't possibly be. It could possibly be, but really. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As predicted, I have won. Y'all see that? Y'all see the approved? Everybody see it? I'll show it to all you over here. I just got my appeal approved. As you can see, I got suspended at 9:14. My appeal was approved at 9:22. So it took exactly 8 minutes for me to be suspended, and now I'm back. There, the appeal was approved. So somebody at TikTok, one of the humans, had to look at it, and there you go. So now I'm back. Y'all see this? This is how it works on TikTok. You got to appeal. This is all I'm checking. So while I'm talking to y'all, all I'm doing is just checking this, because usually it happens pretty quickly. So there you go. My appeal was approved. Y'all can take a screenshot of that if you want. Take a screenshot of this. I'm showing the Instagram audience right now. Y'all on YouTube and X. Those are on YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn. As you can see, my appeal was approved. There it is. So it took me 8 minutes. My appeal was approved. So now I can go live again. So now I'm about to turn this live back on TikTok. Wait one moment. If y'all jumped over from TikTok, wait. Let me confirm that the live is back on. These idiots got me kicked off. All right. And we're going to do 10 minutes on TikTok, and then we'll be done. All right. TikTok live is back on. So those of you who jumped off from TikTok, y'all can jump back on TikTok. I'm turning it back on. Fucking idiots. Anyway. So y'all can jump back on TikTok. I'm going to finish up these last 10 minutes, the Q&A. We lost the string of questions that I was responding to, which I wanted to respond to. So that's one thing we lost from this whole situation. But this is what happens, everybody. This is what happens. So I'll give it a second for everybody to come back in on TikTok. I'm just letting TikTok repopulate, and then we'll get back here. I'll be back on TikTok. I'll be back on TikTok. I'm just making a post on my Instagram story. For one moment. All right, so I'll be back on TikTok. So let me tell everybody what happened. Once again, I got suspended on TikTok. Once again, I was suspended. For those of you who don't know, I was suspended. I had a week-long suspension that was given out at 9:14 a.m. Right now, it is 9:25 a.m. At 9:14, I was suspended for a week. Allegedly for, and I'll show you literally what it says. I was suspended for. So here's what happened first. My live access was removed, as y'all can see right there. Live access removed. The reason was, now I went to find the reason, allegedly misinformation. As it says right there at the bottom of the screen, misinformation. Allegedly, I was misinforming the audience. According to TikTok's community guidelines, it is natural for people to have different opinions, but we seek to operate on a shared set of facts and reality. We do not allow inaccurate, misleading, or false content that may cause significant harm to individuals or society, regardless of intent. Significant harm may include physical, psychological, or societal harm or property damage. This doesn't make, and I got to be careful dissing TikTok on TikTok, but this doesn't make any sense because psychological harm, what exactly does that mean? That has to be clearly defined and is not, because it's so vague, it's very easy to use it as a catch-all. And societal harm, what exactly does that mean? And what harm was I doing in anything that I said here today? I'm not even talking about a hot button issue. If anything, they should have tried to get me yesterday when I was talking about the Epstein files, but I didn't get anything for that. But now I'm talking about a flood in Texas that happened a week ago. Now all of a sudden, a week and a half ago, now all of a sudden there's some type of societal harm. This makes no sense. So then I was filibustering and using time and talking to the audiences over on YouTube, Rumble, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and X while I was waiting for this appeal. Usually what happens with the appeals, everybody, as you can see, I won my appeal. It was approved at 9:22 a.m. I was suspended at 9:14. My appeal was approved at 9:22. So I was literally suspended for 8 minutes. And usually if they take a few minutes to review your appeal, that means a human had to look at it as opposed to the system looking at it. If the system suspended you like a couple of weeks ago with the Diddy thing, they tell you immediately you lost, that your appeal lost and you're suspended for a week. But if they take a few minutes to look at it, that means a human has to look at it, which means you probably got suspended by a human doing a like flagging or reporting your live stream. And I don't know, somebody got mad about this. What did I say today that people get mad about? Look, I didn't even say anything you get mad about. You want to get mad, you should have got mad yesterday when I was talking about Epstein. How are people getting mad at me talking about floods in Texas? What could I possibly have said today to get people mad? I don't know. And I had way more people watching yesterday than I had today. So who did I piss off? I don't know. So then I won the appeal, and yeah, that was that. So Bella said, Art by Collins said, can't get you on TikTok. Don't care, got you on. Yeah, I'm on TikTok now. You can look me up on TikTok now. I'm back. Bella said, what type of human looks at the content? I don't know. Somebody who works at TikTok. But we're happy for them. We like the people. TikTok, shout out to whoever's doing your reviews whenever I get suspended because they are doing a good job. Mark said, I'm back. All right, go ahead, Mark. Glad you found me. You heard nothing bad. I didn't say anything bad. So, again, what the hell is people getting mad about with that? I didn't say anything. I'm not even talking about anything hot button today. This is a story that's actually a week and a half old. So, yeah, interesting. Interesting. That's all we can say. So, yeah, I'm on all the platforms. I'm on all platforms right now. But TikTok is the biggest active live audience. The live audience on TikTok is bigger than all the rest. So, well, yes, moderators, y'all should be blocking people. If anybody's in here talking crazy in the comments, just block them. If they're talking crazy over and over again, if they're respectfully disagreeing, then let them live. But if they're talking crazy, then they got to go. So this is the kind of stuff that happens. And again, even today, when I'm not even talking about a topic that's even that big of a thing. I somehow, some way got suspended, which makes no sense. But anyway, good news is we're back. Good news is that's not going to last. The bad news is, actually, I don't know if this is bad news or not. Actually, I don't know. It's news. Is that upcoming topics, everybody. We're going to be talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's actually called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that did pass. Trump called it the One Big Beautiful Bill, but is actually an act that got signed into law on July 4th. We will be talking about that. It did get passed and Trump signed it. We will be talking about Alligator Alcatraz. That's the facility that the state of Florida has built. I guess is a federal facility, so we can put that on Trump, for people who are in the country without proper documentation and are on their way to being shipped out. We're going to talk about Alligator Alcatraz. We're going to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that is now passed. And Joe Biden's doctor. Did y'all hear about this? Joe Biden's doctor refusing to testify. You heard about that? Joe Biden's doctor refusing to testify. We might talk about that too. So they called Joe Biden's doctor to Capitol Hill to testify about what he knew about Joe Biden's status during his last year or two as president. And the doctor pleaded the fifth and refused to testify. So that's the story. Y'all might not have known about that. I didn't even know that much about it. I didn't hear much about it, but it's coming. So we'll see. Let me see. Extend said, "Amen. What you be doing on Twitter?" What kind of question is that? What do you mean? What do I be doing? Ask me a more direct question. I don't understand the question. Plan B said, half the country is in poverty that share 2.1% of the wealth of this country. Okay. Why are you telling me? Why not? Revenue says upcoming topics: why the Dems keep dividing Americans and not like each other. Now, I probably won't use that as a topic. Usually I use a current event. So what I talk about here, folks, is usually current events. So current events means something that actually just happened in the news. So what you said is there's a conversation to be had about that. I'm not going to have it. I usually can have that in the context of other things that I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk about things that actually happened in the news, like an actual news item. So when the government, Bondi came out and said there's nothing else to say about the Epstein files, that's a current event. When the Texas flood happened, that's a current event. The Diddy trial was a current event. So current events is like an actual news item that is happening right now today. So what you said is something that's always happening. And again, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it is not something I'm going to focus on. And usually I talk about something that's like news, politics, social topics, usually one of those. So for example, Bitcoin. Any of you invest in Bitcoin? Any of you Bitcoin investors? Bitcoin hit 120,000 2 days ago or a day ago. I am a Bitcoin investor. I don't even look at the price. I don't even pay attention. I saw Bitcoin posted this on X yesterday, and I reposted it. Bitcoin said first time ever 120,000. Bitcoin is 120,000 per Bitcoin. So if you own Bitcoin, your investment went up because that's the highest it's ever been. So it had to go up no matter how much you own. And I just saw it and I reposted it, but I didn't even know that the number went up because my investment strategy is to buy and ignore. So I buy things and I forget that I own them. I don't pay any attention. But the Bitcoin bros were all excited about Bitcoin being 120. So that would be a news item, for example. I probably won't talk about that, but that's an example of a news item. What else? I'm just looking at, sometimes I just look at the trending topics on X and I see what's going on. Though the CEO of NVIDIA, that's another company I invest in. And this is not financial advice, but NVIDIA is a good company to be invested in, at least today. All right, don't take that as financial advice. They discuss AI's potential impact on the job market. AI can enhance productivity and skill development, but it also poses a risk of job displacement if people do not step their game up. This is very true. This is the challenge of AI moving forward, is that AI is going to help some people do their jobs better and is going to eliminate some people from doing the job at all because they'll be fired. That's the dual issue of AI, and it's very true. And all it's going to do is create more of a divide. So whoever left that comment about 2% of people have like half the country is only 2% of the wealth, this is only going to make it worse. AI is going to make this worse because the people who learn to use AI really well and harness it and use it strategically, they're going to build more wealth because they're going to have the jobs and they're going to have the opportunities. And the people who don't, they have jobs right now, but they're going to end up having no job, and your position is going to be even less valuable, and the gap between people is going to get bigger and bigger. So the gap between the haves and have-nots is only going to increase moving forward as AI continues to encroach on our world. It's already encroaching. So those of you who haven't caught up to the AI game, I suggest you catch up. All right, spend some time today catching up on the AI game. Find out how to use it for your job. I guarantee you there's something you could do with AI in your job right now that will help you do it better. Your job is to figure out what that is and to start actually doing it. So let me answer a couple more comments, then we'll wrap this one away. Mark said they took away your likes. No, it's every time you start a new live, you start at 0. So the likes from that last one I still have. They didn't go away. I still got them. So the last live, just so y'all know, because if you get suspended and you don't win the appeal, then they basically delete your live, like you can't use it. But if you get suspended and then you win, they bring your live back. So you get the points back. So the live that I did here earlier today, before I got so rudely interrupted, where can I see the stats? I'm trying to see the stats. Stats from my last live was my live recap. So where is it? I'm looking at, they're not giving me the stats that I'm looking for. So 6,000 viewers. No, that was last week. That's the wrong one. Where is it? Sometimes these things are hard to find. So this one that I did earlier today, how many likes did I have? I had 82,000 likes earlier. So 82,000 likes this morning. So shout out to everybody who liked the live this morning. We did get up to 82K, and that was only in an hour, and I got kicked off. So 82K is very healthy, very strong numbers. 267 diamonds, 10 gifts, 215 comments, 15 new followers, 1.9K viewers. So this is the numbers for this last live that I just did. Y'all can see right here. This is what they showed me on TikTok on the back end. So this is the live that just got rudely interrupted by somebody flagging my live stream, was these stats right here. So those likes did not go away. I did get those. 10 gifters, 15 new followers, 215 comments, 7 shares, 82,000 likes. And shout out to people with the most watch time. Looks like this is Barbie. And they're showing your screen names and not showing your actual names. I don't know who these people are. Irma, thank you for the gift. Traditional with the gift. Hokey, Gigi with the gift. Shout out to the people with the gifts. They do show that. And they show you by your screen name. Not everybody has the same screen name. So some of you I can see a screen name, and some of you I can't see what exactly this is. So there. Some of your screen names and your display names are not the same. So I can see the picture, but I don't know who the person is. Anyway, that's what's coming up. I just pay attention to the current events so we can see. I like that one, whatever that was. Whoever just sent that, I like that gift you just put up there. Where was I? I was looking at a couple of the comments. What happened? I got kicked off. I got suspended, pop up, lane yet, and then I appealed, and 8 minutes later, I won. How many years for Diddy? We did a live on that like 7 days ago, Tony. Go look it up. You'll see it. No, it was actually last Friday. So what was that? 5 days ago. Then it said, the first time I ever saw Bitcoin was in a book for $25. I don't know what the hell it's $25. You should have bought that. Hindsight's 2020. Jesse said the only people fault it was the people of the county. It wasn't anybody's fault. I think things just happened. Then it said, by the time I found out what a Bitcoin was, it was already on a mad rush. Well, understand something. This time last year, by the way, we'll talk about Bitcoin for a moment since I brought it up. Bitcoin right now, its price right now at the exact moment is $118,000. But all time Bitcoin is, let's see, in 2017, Bitcoin was $8,000 a Bitcoin. Now it's $119,000 a Bitcoin. So for those of you who don't understand the math, that's a whole lot of increase. That's a whole lot. If you had bought one Bitcoin back then for $8,000, that $8,000 Bitcoin would be worth $119,000. In other words, you made $110,000. And you can buy a fractional Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy $1 worth of Bitcoin if you want right now. Last year, so right now we're in July of 2025. In July of 2024, okay, pay attention here, folks. In July of 2024, Bitcoin was at $65,000 per Bitcoin. 65,000. It has nearly doubled in a year. So any of you who thinks that it might be too late to get into Bitcoin, no, it's not. It's early. Bitcoin is 123,000. You ask people who are bullish on Bitcoin, is going to $1 million, which means what is worth now is going to be 10x in the future. That's not financial advice. It's not financial advice. Speak to a licensed financial advisor before making any financial decisions. And the whole thing is Bitcoin's going up. My prediction is it's going up. Again, not financial advice. My prediction is going up. And I believe it will eventually get to $1 million. Don't buy it thinking you needed to go to $1 million tomorrow. Do what I do. Buy it and forget that you even own it and consistently invest in it without even looking at it. And then when it goes up, and you look at it and look at all this money paper money that I theoretically made. That's the way I would look at it. So Bitcoin is early in Bitcoin. Okay, very early in Bitcoin for everybody who is listening. Someone asked me about, do I believe in capitalism? Yes. My time is actually over, folks. We're about to wrap this up. We're in overtime right now, so I'm wrapping this up in a moment. I'm just breezing through a few of these comments. Someone asked me thoughts on Trump doing something. I can't respond to that. That question is going to be too long for me to address. Nigel said, you look intelligent. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Plan B said it only works with regulation. No, I don't know. It's not that regulated right now, and it's doing well. Heck said, why were you suspended? Allegedly for misinformation, but I appealed and I won. So we're all right. Plan B said, what year was that? 2017, it was 8,000. Last year, 1 year ago, it was 65. Right now it's 117. So that's damn near double in a year. Basically drowning the economy. I don't know what you mean by that. Frankie said, we never seen you and Plaxico Burress in the same room. Me either. So that means we ain't the same person. Nigel says, just speculation. Oh, no, it's not. If you bought it at 65 and you sold it this year, you made $60,000. That's not speculation. That's real. Plan B said Bitcoin is limited. Yes, that's the reason why it's valuable. That's one of the reasons why it's valuable. Good morning. I'm okay. No, they suspended me. Then I got unsuspended. So that's what happened. I got suspended, then unsuspended. So they didn't boot you off. I got booted off. So any of you who thought you got booted off, you did not get booted off. They booted me off. L said, I agree with regulated capitalism with social programs. Don't agree with hyper-capitalism. Okay. Someone said, is that my niche? No. All right, everybody. So we will wrap this one up. I will see everybody tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. As I told you, I usually talk about current events, something is happening in the news. I will see you all tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. If you want to know what happened and why I got kicked off, I'm going to update my story on TikTok. Just look at my story on TikTok and you'll see the updates as to what happened. I'll give you a brief explanation for those who don't know what happened if you didn't hear me when I came back on. And make sure you follow me on Instagram and on YouTube, just in case I ever get kicked off in the middle of a live stream like what happened today. Either my internet went out or there's some type of storm happening here or I got suspended. If it goes out in the middle of the live, always check my Instagram and my YouTube because I'm live on Instagram and YouTube right now too. I'm just looking at TikTok because that's where I'm reading the comments from. But if I ever get kicked off in the middle of a live stream, just check my Instagram and my YouTube. The links to both of those are in my profile on TikTok. So as soon as I end this live stream, just go to my profile on TikTok and I'll show you. So here's my profile on TikTok right here. And if you click on that, 2 more with the links, you see my Instagram is right there. My YouTube is right there. Follow me in both of these places. So if I ever get kicked off in the middle of a live stream, just go to one of these. And if I got suspended, I'll tell you that's what happened. And I'm going to update my story on TikTok in a moment to tell you all what actually happened here today and what you need to look out for. Also, you want to get access to Dre GPT, my free streaming, not my free streaming, my free chatbot is available 24/7, asking any questions based on my systems, my training, my frameworks. Go to the link in my profile, workonyourgame.live. It has links to all my stuff, my YouTube, my podcast, my coaching programs, my books, and Dre GPT. Y'all can start accessing that free. Everybody have a great Tuesday. See y'all tomorrow. Work on your game. We out.